The wind was cruel that evening, slashing against his windshield like knives. But it was the small shape curled up on the shoulder of the highway, a woman holding her trembling son, that made him slam the brakes. No second thoughts. He snatched the thick blanket from behind his seat and jumped out into the storm, heart pounding. When their eyes met, soaked and scared under the gray sky, he didn't say a word, just opened the truck's passenger door and held out the blanket with a kindness that shattered the cold. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. Jason Hale had been a lot of things. Marine, mechanic, single dad. But tonight, he was just a man who couldn't ignore suffering. He spotted them just past mile marker 83. The woman's coat was too thin for the biting Missouri wind. Her arms wrapped tightly around her son, like she could will the warmth into him. The boy, maybe 6 or 7, was barefoot. Barefoot in December. Jason didn't hesitate. He didn't stop to wonder if it was a scam, didn't check if they looked trustworthy. He just reacted. "You okay?" he asked, crouching down as he draped the heavy blanket over the boy. His breath fogged in the freezing air, mingling with hers. The woman didn't answer. Not at first. Her lips trembled too much. But the tears in her eyes said more than words. He guided them into the warmth of his old F-150, cranking the heater as high as it would go. The dashboard lights cast a soft glow over the boy's pale face. "I'm Jason," he said gently, passing them his only spare thermos filled with lukewarm coffee. "You don't have to talk. Just get warm." She took it with shaking hands. I'm Emma. This is my son, Logan." "Nice to meet you both," Jason said with a quiet nod, though nothing about this meeting felt nice. "What were you doing out there?" he asked after a pause. Emma didn't look at him. She stared at her son. "Walking. In this cold. I didn't have a choice." Her voice cracked. "We've been walking since noon. My car broke down 2 days ago. Motel ran out of vouchers. I didn't know where else to go." Jason's jaw tightened. He glanced in the rearview mirror, as if it might show him the full path she'd taken. He didn't ask more questions. Instead, he asked, "Do you like pancakes?" Logan blinked at him, then nodded. Jason smiled. "Good. I know a place." He didn't take them to a shelter. He didn't call social services. He took them home. Jason's house wasn't big. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and a kitchen that still had paint peeling around the stove. But it was warm, and tonight, that made it feel like a palace. He pushed the door open, letting Emma and Logan step into the soft scent of cedarwood, heating oil, and pancakes long gone. His dog, Max, an aging golden retriever with cloudy eyes and a loyal soul, looked up from the rug but didn't bark. Just thumped his tail once and laid his head back down. "Bathroom's down the hall," Jason said, kicking off his boots. "Towels are clean. Water's hot. Take your time." Emma hesitated. Her eyes scanned the place like it couldn't be real. Like any second, someone would come out screaming that she didn't belong. "You sure?" she whispered. Jason nodded. "I've never been more sure." While she led Logan down the hall, Jason moved to the kitchen. He hadn't planned on guests, but he still had eggs, milk, and a half box of pancake mix. As the skillet warmed, he found himself staring at the hallway. He remembered what it was like to be cold, to be scared, not because he was poor, but because he'd returned from war to an empty house and a divorce notice. His son, Tyler, had been 5 when his ex walked out. No explanation. Just gone. He'd rebuilt from nothing. He knew pain. But tonight wasn't about him. The bathroom door creaked open. Emma stepped out wearing one of his old flannel shirts, her hair wet and tucked behind her ears. Logan trailed behind her, wrapped in a hoodie that hung past his knees. "I hope it's okay," she said quickly. "I didn't mean to." "You're fine," Jason said, sliding the first pancake onto a plate. "Food's ready." They sat around the small table in silence. Logan devoured his plate, chewing with wide, grateful eyes. Emma ate slower, still guarded. "You don't owe me anything," Jason said after a moment. "I know that look. You're waiting for the catch." She blinked at him. "There's no catch. You and your boy needed help. That's it." Her eyes welled. She turned away fast, pretending to wipe her mouth. Jason didn't press. He just refilled her plate and said softly, "You and Logan can sleep here tonight. No one's going to ask questions." She nodded, whispered, "Thank you." At midnight, Jason sat on the porch, sipping coffee. The air was sharp, but the stars were bright. He didn't hear Emma come out until she sat beside him on the step. I'm not used to this, she said. To porches, he teased. To kindness. He glanced at her. That's a damn shame. She looked down at her hands. I left someone. Someone bad. Logan didn't deserve the life we had. So I packed a bag, took the keys, and drove until we ran out of road. Jason didn't say anything. Just let her speak. I used to be somebody, she whispered. Marketing exec in Chicago. 6-figure salary. Designer clothes. Then I met Mark. Her voice hardened. He was charming. Dangerous, but charming. Took everything slowly. Even my freedom. Jason's jaw flexed, but he didn't interrupt. He didn't hit me at first. Just chipped away at my world until I didn't recognize myself. She laughed bitterly. I stayed too long. Until Logan begged me to leave. That's what finally did it. Hearing a kid ask his mom to be brave. Jason turned to her. You were brave. You were brave. She shook her head. I'm just tired. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, You're safe now. As long as you're under my roof. No one lays a finger on either of you. And she believed him. That night, for the first time in months, she slept without clutching her car keys. Jason awoke before the sun, like always. Habit. Marine instincts. The house was quiet, but his ears caught something unfamiliar. Breathing. Not just his own. Too soft, steady rhythms down the hallway. He hadn't realized how much he'd grown used to silence. The coffee machine groaned to life as he started his day. He was mid-sip when he saw it. Emma's phone, cracked and forgotten, sitting on the counter. Dead battery. No charger. A detail, but one that reminded him just how real her escape had been. He was frying eggs when Logan wandered in, rubbing his eyes. The kid looked better already, still small for his age, but with color returning to his cheeks. You like dogs? Jason asked, nodding at Max. Logan nodded. He's not scary. Jason smiled. He snores louder than my truck, but yeah, he's a sweetheart. Emma emerged soon after, fresh but cautious. She had braided her damp hair and knotted the flannel shirt at her waist. The woman before him looked stronger than the one he'd rescued from the roadside. You didn't have to cook, she said, biting her lip. I like mornings, Jason replied. They're honest. Breakfast was quiet but warm. Jason didn't ask questions. He didn't want to ruin what little peace they had. But peace has a way of vanishing too fast. At 9:12 a.m., someone knocked on the door. 3 sharp, deliberate knocks. Jason stood slowly. Stay here, he murmured. He opened the door, just a crack, and every instinct he had went rigid. There stood a man in a leather jacket and mirrored sunglasses. Tall, expensive haircut. One of those smiles that wasn't a smile at all. I'm looking for Emma Green, the man said coolly. Jason didn't blink. Wrong house. The man tilted his head. You sure? Got a pretty solid lead she came this way. Traveling with a kid. Pale. Brown hair. Jason's tone didn't change. You got a badge? The man smirked. Don't need one. Then get off my porch. They stared at each other. For a long, tense moment. Then the man gave a nod, like he'd tested the waters and backed off, and strolled down the steps. Jason watched until the car disappeared down the road. He closed the door, locked it, and turned around to find Emma standing in the hallway, shaking. That was him, wasn't it? He asked. She nodded slowly. That's Mark's lawyer. His fixer. Jason ran a hand over his jaw. You think he tracked your phone? It was off, she whispered. But he always find a way. Jason handed her the phone from the counter. Time to let that go. She nodded again, walked outside, and with trembling fingers, hurled it into the woods. That afternoon, Jason changed the locks. He pulled the shotgun from the closet and placed it beside his bed, not to threaten, but to promise protection. He let Emma help around the house, not because he needed it, but because he saw how much she needed to feel useful again. Logan followed Max around like a shadow, and when Jason let the boy help with oiling the lawnmower, the smile on Logan's face made something break open in him. He hadn't realized how badly he'd missed having laughter in the house. But that night, Emma sat beside him on the porch again, her face drawn. He's going to find me, Jason. Let him try, he said firmly. You're not alone anymore. She stared at him for a long moment, then whispered, Why are you doing this? Why do you care? He looked straight into her eyes. Because someone should have cared for me when I was the one breaking, and no one did. Emma covered her mouth as tears slipped down. Not from fear, from the ache of being believed. 2 days passed, and in those days, the small house felt almost like a home again. Pancakes in the morning, laughter during chores, Max barking at squirrels like they were terrorists. Jason tried not to get too comfortable, but part of him hoped, foolishly, that maybe Mark had backed off. Maybe the fixer had reported nothing and walked away. Maybe Emma and Logan could stay. Until that morning, Jason was underneath the truck, tightening the suspension, when he heard Max bark. Not a lazy bark, not a curious one. This bark was sharp, alert, protective. He rolled out fast and looked up. Emma stood at the edge of the driveway, staring at a letter nailed to his mailbox. Jason stood slowly. Emma. She turned, her face pale as ash. It was a single sheet. One sentence. You think he can protect you? Ask him what happened in Kandahar. Jason ripped it down and scanned the woods. No cars. No people. Just wind. Get inside, he said. But Emma didn't move. What does that mean? Jason looked at her, jaw clenched. I don't talk about that part of my life. She didn't blink. You said I was safe here. But they know you. That note was for you. He nodded. They're trying to rattle us. It's working. Later, Jason sat on the porch with a beer in one hand and a storm behind his eyes. Emma came out and sat beside him. Tell me, she said. He hesitated, then began. Kandahar was the last op's civilian evac mission. Intel said it was clean. It wasn't. His voice was low, steady. We were ambushed. Lost 2 men. I found a mother and her daughter hiding behind a collapsed wall. Got him out. But one of my guys, my best friend, didn't make it. I made the call. The call that saved a civilian, but cost a soldier. His parents never forgave me. Hell, I never forgave me. Emma's voice cracked. But you saved lives. Still feels like I left a brother behind. She touched his hand. You did what you had to, just like I did when I ran. Jason turned to her. What aren't you telling me? She looked away. Mark isn't just a controlling man. He's a laundering middleman. Offshore accounts. Dirty contracts. I kept the books. Until I stopped turning a blind eye. Jason's stomach dropped. So this isn't just a custody thing. She shook her head. No, it's criminal. And the worst part? I took evidence. I copied the files before I ran. They're hidden. He stared at her. Where? In Logan's stuffed bunny. Jason blinked. Emma smiled grimly. Never underestimate a mother. That night, Jason heard tires crunching on gravel. Too slow for a neighbor. Too quiet for casual. He was already at the window when the headlights went off. Emma, he called. Take Logan. Lock the bedroom door. Hide. She didn't argue. She just moved. Jason grabbed the shotgun. He wasn't going to fire unless he had to. But the man who stepped onto his porch wasn't just Mark's fixer. It was Mark. Tall, cold, and smiling. I'm here for what's mine, he said. Jason stepped out. Door shut behind him. They're not yours anymore. Mark chuckled. You're just a mechanic with a war hero complex. I'm a father, Jason said flatly. That's all I need to be. Wrong answer. Mark moved. Fast. Jason was faster. The fight wasn't clean. There was no choreography. Just 2 men, a porch, a punch, and the rage of years behind both fists. In the end, Jason stood. Mark didn't. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Emma stepped out holding Logan, eyes wide. Jason exhaled. You okay? She nodded. Then, to his shock, she handed him the stuffed bunny. I think it's time. The morning after Mark's arrest broke like a quiet prayer. The storm had passed, but the tension hadn't. Not entirely. Jason sat at the table, nursing a bruised jaw and staring at the stuffed bunny on the counter. Emma stood nearby, biting her thumbnail. Are you sure about this? He looked up. If you want justice, now's the time. She nodded. Then let's burn the whole thing down. Emma met with Detective Roy Marshall that afternoon, a man with graying temples, tired eyes, and zero tolerance for corruption. She handed him the flash drive Jason extracted from the bunny's belly. Inside it, wire transfers, fake invoices, names, offshore accounts connected to shell corporations. It wasn't just enough to indict Mark. It could unravel half the network he worked for. But with power came risk. By the next evening, Emma's name hit the news. Whistleblower and billionaire scandal identified. Ex-wife of business tycoon claims financial conspiracy. Her face was everywhere. Jason's too, after a neighbor leaked a photo of him walking Logan to school. The quiet town was suddenly not so quiet. Jason installed cameras, reinforced locks, and kept his shotgun closer than ever. But despite everything, Logan still laughed. Still asked to help cook. Still asked Jason if they could build a birdhouse. "Does this mean you're my dad now?" Logan asked one night, blinking up from his cereal. Jason froze. Emma's spoon clinked against her bowl. Logan shrugged. "You feel like one." Emma covered her mouth to stifle a sob. Jason just smiled. "Let's take it one day at a time, buddy." Weeks passed. The trial came. Emma testified. Calm, clear, fierce. Mark's defense tried to paint her as unstable, manipulative, vindictive. But the files didn't lie. The money trail was irrefutable. And when Jason took the stand to confirm the timeline, and the night Mark showed up, the jury's expression changed. Mark was sentenced to 12 years. More charges pending. His empire collapsed within days. But the victory didn't feel like celebration. It felt like a breath she'd been holding for years. After court, Emma sat beside Jason on the same porch where it had all begun. "I don't know who I am now," she said softly. "You're a mom," Jason said. "A survivor, a fighter, and someone I want in my life. For however long you'll let me." She turned to him. "I'm scared." "So am I," he said. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone." She leaned into his shoulder, and for the first time, there was peace in the silence. 6 months later, Jason walked out into the spring air. Logan was in the yard, building a tiny birdhouse with Max lying next to him. Emma was inside, humming to herself, painting the kitchen, something she never thought she'd enjoy. They weren't rich. They weren't perfect, but they were together. And that was enough. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, like offering a blanket to a stranger in the cold, becomes the turning point of an entire life. You never know what someone's running from, or what they're capable of becoming once they feel safe.